Who does your body belong to? The answer may seem obvious. Your body belongs to you. But what about when you die? Many people want their bodies to benefit others when they no longer need them. The most common ways of doing this are organ donation or leaving one's body to medical science. Giving up your body to help people you'll never meet is a selfless act and a wonderful gift. But in recent years, there have been growing calls for an opt-out system of organ donation. The state would assume control of your body after death and would be able to harvest it for organs, unless you said otherwise. We went out on the streets of Dalston in East London to gauge what the public thought of these proposals. We found that while many people believed donating their organs would be a positive thing, they also had strong objections to the state making assumptions on their behalf.
So are you for or against presumed consent for organ donation?
I think we should have the choice of opting in rather than being obliged to opt out. I don't like the idea that's kind of recently been spoken about, that it will be presumed that everybody will be giving organs or whatever it is for research and for donations. I think that the government should spend its energies on just educating people and publicising and taking some of the fear that people might have traditionally have thought about giving their organs away.
So are you for or against presumed consent for organ donation?
I'm against it, because I feel that people should choose themselves whether it's okay for their organs to be taken or not. But obviously I'm for helping if I die and someone needs my kidney or my blood or whatever. Of course I'd help, but I think it's just that there's not enough education or information about this. If people would be informed about this, then they would start thinking, and then more people would choose and have those cards for organ donation with them. But for now, I think it's not spoken out loud enough.
To be quite frank with you, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I don't think that the government have the right to decide what I must do with my organs. But nonetheless, I do sort of believe in organ donation. So I think that there's perhaps another way around getting people to donate their organs. Even in death, I think people have certain rights and dignity. The choice to opt out to me isn't a choice, really. I think you should choose to opt in if you want to.
I agree with, like me and my friend were saying, that when you pass your driver's licence, you can say whether you want to be an organ donor. If you're in a car crash or something, and I agree with a decision like that because at least you've had a say in it. But you've been given the option and the choice, and you've been able to give your consent, and I agree with that. I think that the more choice we have, the better. I don't think our choice should be taken away from us.
Yeah. So are you actually a donor yourself?
Yeah, when I passed my driving licence, I said that I'd be a donor if I was in a car crash. But if I was terminally ill, I'd again want the decision in that circumstance. I'd probably be a donor, but I'd want the choice.
When a person wishes to leave their body to medical science, individual consent is paramount. We met with Vishy Mahadevan, Professor of Anatomy at the Royal College of Surgeons of England, and Louise Evans, Coordinator of the London Anatomy Office, to learn why individual consent is so important and what kind of person leaves their body to medical science.
Under the old Anatomy Act, verbal consent or even an expression of a desire to donate one's body to a medical institution was enough to make sure that the body went to a medical school. But one of the great changes with the new act that governs the use of bodies in medical institutions is that the consent from the individual has to be informed consent, and the consent has to be offered in a written form with a counter-signatory witnessing that signature. In the absence of written consent, the body will simply not be used by any medical institution in the UK.
And so do you view that as a good thing or almost a waste of a wish that was there?
On balance, I think it is a very good thing that the law insists that consent should be informed consent and it should be written consent. So this makes it absolutely safe from misuse of that particular clause.
It's hugely important that people make an informed decision about donating their bodies, because the implications of it are far-reaching for themselves and their relatives in particular, they have to understand that their body will be dissected. They have to understand that we may keep the body for a significant period of time, and in some cases the body may not be returned at all.
Because it's really interesting that you're dealing with the individuals first in the first instance, but then after the body has been donated, you're then dealing with the families. So do you ever get conflicts of opinion there, or is that difficult sometimes?
It can be. It happens occasionally. That's one of the reasons why it's so important that the donor makes the decision to donate themselves, because if there is disagreement in the family, then the person themselves, it's not disputed, it was their decision. It happens very rarely, but it's not unheard of.
Do you ever get people that change their mind, that give you, and what do you think about that process? I mean, people obviously have the right to change their minds, but do you try and talk them out of it?
People do sometimes change their minds about donating. In fact, I had one today, a gentleman rang me, and he'd donated his body several years ago. He'd left the instructions several years ago and just mentioned it to his children at the weekend, and they weren't happy about it. In which case it's a simple procedure. You remove his details, you destroy his form, and he destroys his copy of the form, and it's as simple as that. Nobody's held to ransom, nobody's forced to donate their body, they can change their mind at any time.
I wonder then, to go back to the idea of families who you obviously work with so much, but yet it's so important that the consent comes from the individual, and that families can't actually override the wishes of the individual. So in one way the family is supremely important, but in the other way it's the individual actually that the family is acting on behalf of. Why is it the individual that has to consent?
It's hugely important that the individual consents themselves to donating their body. If there is conflict within the family and it's going to cause a huge amount of distress to somebody for the body to be donated, we certainly wouldn't take that body against the wishes of the next of kin who may be left in distress. Although it's legally we can, there is a moral implication of taking a body against the wishes of a loved one.
What is it, do you think, that drives an individual to make this kind of donation? It seems like a very selfless act.
In my experience, what I think drives most people to donate their body is a feeling that their body is going to waste. Once you're dead, you don't need your body anymore. And a huge number of people mention that when they're talking about donating their body, and they don't want their body to be burnt, they don't want their body to go in the ground and be eaten by worms, is a quarter-year lot. And what they want is for their body to be put to some good use that will benefit other people. The benefits of a donated body are absolutely huge and far-reaching. At the most fundamental level, you've got the medical students who are learning about anatomy from a real body, which they are then taking out into the workplace once they qualify and using that knowledge on their patients. But then you have the bodies are used for a number of other things as well. For example, at King's College, they have pain management courses where they have anaesthetists come in and practice in putting probes into spines in the body to assess what they can do to a living patient to minimise any pain or discomfort to a patient. And in a course like that, the benefit is absolutely immediate, because then they'll go and do it on a living patient.
I can remember how much I benefited from having a body to dissect when I was a medical student, and I must be honest, I didn't consciously feel any great gratitude to that individual every time I picked up a knife to dissect a part of his body. I'm sure deep down I had that enormous gratitude.
What motivates me in my job is the personal satisfaction that I get. It's quite selfish, really, because it's very, very rewarding to be able to help somebody. And when I speak to the potential donors beforehand as well, they tend to be, a fairly jolly bunch of people who are very pragmatic and very practical about the donation of their body. And I have one chap who sends me a postcard saying, I'm still looking after my body for you, Louise, and I think it's absolutely lovely.
I haven't got around to actually signing my body away, but I'm sure I will do it. But I will eventually sign that consent form.
And so heaven forbid, if something should happen, what would happen to you?
I'm afraid in the absence of written consent from me, my body, despite my wishes, simply cannot be used in the United Kingdom for medical science. You have quite rightly shamed me, and I haven't actually signed up yet, but I ought to. And why haven't I? I've been rather busy and so on, but that's not really an excuse. I have actually discussed the matter with the family. Although my daughter was a bit reluctant initially, she was eventually won over to the idea that it wouldn't be such a bad thing at all. It's just a question of signing the form, and I shall try and do it within the next sort of 10 days or so, thanks to you.
People don't want their bodies to go to waste. People want to help others and save lives. So why is the government so pessimistic about people's capacity to give? For us, an opt-out system undermines our ability to make decisions about our own bodies and ultimately undermines the autonomy of us all.